Hello everyone and welcome back to another Figurehead Reviews video, and today we are taking a look at the Star Wars The Black Series Best Buy exclusive Heavy Infantry Mandalorian figure. Here we have the Heavy Infantry Mandalorian displayed in the front window with his backpack or jetpack and his Gatling gun. On one side we do have some pretty plain description there, just plain text rather, of his name. And then on the other side, because this is a deluxe class figure, we do get the D2 designation as opposed to either a blank spot or a regular numbered spot. And then in the back, we do have a little bit of artwork there, and then we do have the read-up. A brawny warrior encased in the strongest Beskar armor, the mysterious heavy infantry Mandalorian is part of a secretive enclave of his people. A born survivor, he guards a precious armory and helps to keep the flames of the Mandalorian heritage flickering in this time of galactic chaos. And then on the bottom, you do have the UPC code, so you can check with your local Best Buy to see if they show it in stock or check online. But enough about that, let's get this open and take a look at the Heavy Infantry Mandalorian. And here is the Heavy Infantry Mandalorian outside of the packaging, and I'll be honest with you, I hadn't planned on watching the TV show, but I did get Disney Plus for other reasons, and I decided one day to go ahead and give the first episode a shot. Fell in love with it, and I have been watching every episode since, and of course, the latest episode, episode 3, or at least it's the latest at the time of recording this, I think episode 4 will have come out by now, introduced us to this Heavy Infantry Mandalorian amongst other Mandalorians. And it was awesome. And then all of a sudden, I see a post on Reddit, like literally 2 days after watching the episode, saying Best Buy has an exclusive, and there it is. So I did order this as soon as I saw that. It sold out almost immediately after I got it. But I've been very happy with this figure so far. It looks very cool, some cool accessories, and I think it'll go great with a Mandalorian collection that I'm kind of building up. I'm going to get Boba, Jango, Sabine Wren, and I still got to get the actual Mandalorian figure as well. But with that being said, he does come, of course, with some accessories, mainly his jetpack and that gun. So let's take a look at that, and then we'll get a better look at the figure. Included in the packaging, you will find the jetpack with the little connection hose leading down to the Gatling gun style blaster, and I think these are very cool accessories. I like how they are done. I like the paintwork on it. It's relatively simplistic, but we do get some slight effects to make it look a little bit worn, and I think that is very cool. On the back side, you will find this square peg that will go right into the back of the figure. That is how it's going to port in there. And then you'll notice on this hose, you also have a little connection piece, so you got a flat end there, and then on his arm, you will see you have a matching port so that you can have that hose connected to his arm, and I think that is cool. And then looking down at the actual jetpack exhaust, if you happen to have any of the blaster pieces from Iron Man, look at that. They fit right in there. So if you wanted to do any flying poses with this figure, you could add some of these effects in there to really make it stand out and actually add quite a bit to the imagery there. So I like that. You then do have this hose that is going to go down into the Gatling gun, and we can see some pretty cool styling there. I like the effects. You can see down here at the end of this hose, it's on a little bit of a ball joint, so that way it won't be too impeded by the articulation of the figure. So as you're adjusting the figure around and moving it around, it can rotate around on that, so that is good. You get the handle in the back and then a handle on the side as well. And then you do get a grip here at the top, and then you can see that grip does rotate, which again is nice for posing the figure, so that way if the arm or the hand can't reach the type of articulation you want, it's not really a big deal because you can pose that around. Then we do get a really cool silver brushing here on the barrel leading down to this blue tip on the end. It would have been kind of cool actually if those had been drilled out and you could have put blast effects in there. I think that would have been nice. But aside from that, if you did want to, you can pull this port off, and then that way you could have just the jetpack on its own. But considering the jetpack also comes with this little hole here, and then the gun has on this side a port or a peg there, you can actually peg the gun into the side of the jetpack. That way, if you do want to do some poses where he's not necessarily using the weapon, he can still have it stowed away and actually looks like it fits with the character. But let's go ahead now and get a better look at the Heavy Infantry Mandalorian. And getting up close here, we can see some very cool sculpt and paint work done for this figure. I really like the shade of blue used, and I like the design of the helmet. Of course, everyone likes the design of Mandalorian armor, so I think we could all agree on that. But I like that we get some of that silver paint around some of the corners and edges, and that really helps to highlight that this is just kind of a battle-damaged and battle-worn piece of armor. If you look closely at the spots on the head, there's actually little chips and dents where that paint has been applied, so that really helps to drive home that effect. That continues on when we look down the rest of the figure. We can see again some of that silver paint work along all the corners and the edges just to give it that worn out look. And again, we can see on the shoulder plates, there's actually sculpting in there to show a deep gouge, so it's not just painted on. So I think that was a really nice addition. I love we get that Mandalorian emblem there on the one shoulder, and that actually came out pretty good. Looks like there's not a whole lot to it as far as needing to be centered and things like that. And then going down the rest of his armor, very cool looking, relatively plain-ish if you kind of look at it, just the blue with the detailing there of the battle marks. But I think it's neat how you get, the different gauntlets and things like that and the different pieces of armor that make it up. So helps it really stand out. One thing I do want to point out with this little arm-mounted blaster here, now I haven't rewatched the episode, so I don't remember what he uses that for, if it's a flamethrower like we see with Mando, or if it is a blaster. But same as with the jetpacks, if you wanted to, you can put the Iron Man blast effect in there. So if it does turn out to be a gun, you could do it with the starburst pattern. If it turns out to be a flamethrower, you could take that starburst pattern off and just have it look like the flame, and I think that would look really neat. The belt here came out looking good. You actually get some of the finer details like that little gold paint there to signify the little buttons there on the pouches. So I think that is neat. And then we do get it's a soft-ish material there for what would be the cloak on some of the other figures, but just the drape there going down the back. And I like that you can see under his armor, like the fabric at the elbows, and then you can see that again at the legs and at the back of the legs as well. So I think that looks good. And then continuing on again, we see the sculpt work of those gouges and marks and things like that on the legs, along with that silver dry brushing. And then we even get different knee pads there. And then down at the bottom, we get different shin guards also. So I really like the design overall on how they did this figure. I think it came together well. Looking at the articulation, so you have a head that can do some tilting a little bit, and it can't really look down or up, though. As I mentioned, I don't have a ton of Star Wars figures, so I'm not really familiar with what pattern or what style they use. But yeah, you don't get a whole lot out of the head on this guy. So, of course, you do get side to side, and I can see that he does rotate down at the base of the neck as well. You do have arms that can come up all the way in a full T pose. The armor will just slide up on his shoulder, so that is good. It doesn't impede the articulation. And then you do have full rotation. You do have a upper bicep swivel, a deep single jointed elbow, but you can get a full 90 degrees. Then you do have a forearm rotation as well. And on this hand, you have the standard hinge on that arm, or rather that hand. But then on this one, you do have that up and down motion there where the hinge is at the top versus right there at the palm. You do have a diaphragm joint that doesn't really get you a ton of crunch. You get a lot back, but not forward. You can turn it side to side, but it's really springy for mine anyway. And then you can actually even do some side-to-side motion there with it as well. Doesn't look like there's any type of waist rotation. You have legs that can come apart relatively far, can kick forward. Meh, not bad. Backwards, not much. There is an upper thigh cut there. You have a double-jointed knee, pretty deep double-jointed knee. There is no boot rotation, but you do have a hinge and ankle pivot. And that about does it for this review, everyone. So overall, I really like this figure. The attention to detail was really well done. I like the scrapes and scratches and the otherwise battle damage that we see throughout the figure. I like that they made the ports on the back work with the Iron Man effect, so you can get a shot like this, replicating that final scene where he's giving that salute to Mando. And I just think it was really cool. I will say that the price point does seem a little bit high. I get that they are calling this a deluxe figure, but aside from the fact that he's a little bit bulky and his accessory is certainly a bit more involved than what you usually get with some of the standard molds, it just seems like it's a bit much to make him a deluxe figure. But I will say that considering this was more than likely a very unique body mold, body sculpt, as well as the accessory sculpt and things like that, the cost of tooling was probably a bit more. So it was probably a case of either we get this figure for a higher price point or we don't get it at all. And personally, I am really glad that we did get it at the higher price point. I think it will fill out some of those Mandalorian and Star Wars collections quite nicely. So with that being said, as I mentioned, this is the end of the review. Thank you for stopping by and watching the video. Make sure to hit that like button if you like the video. Subscribe for more content like this. And otherwise, have a great day.